away.
Hello and welcome to 24/7 Lifestyle Magazine. I'm your host, Ellie, and today we're joined by a remarkable guest whose music, work, vision, and journey continue to inspire people across the world of music. So, welcome the incredible Midge Ure. How are you
Hey, how you
doing?
doing? I'm good, thank you. I'm very well.
So, I was thinking first we could discuss your previous work and then we could move up to your upcoming release and the tour, if that's okay.
Oh God, yeah. How
Mhm.
long have you got? It's quite a lot of stuff. Started full time in music with a band called Slick. Moved on, joined a band named the Rich Kids in 1976, I think it was, 77. Bought a synthesizer, broke that band up, formed a side band called Visage, which had a big hit, Fade to Grey. Through Visage, I ended up joining Ultra Vox, who were my main band.
Yeah.
We did that for 6 or 7 years, which is great. And then I did some solo stuff, and I'm still doing solo stuff. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess what would you think your main accomplishment is when you look back on your past work?
That's
Like that
difficult.
stands out.
I think different things affect different
Yeah.
people, and that reflects on what you think an accomplishment is.
Yeah.
Sometimes just finishing a piece of music and getting it done is an accomplishment. Just finishing it and getting it out there.
Yeah.
And other times, the accomplishment can be people looking at the perceived success that it has, which is usually chart success or sales or whatever. So it varies from different things. Sometimes I'm more proud of the ones that people never really got to hear
Yeah.
than the ones that sold in the millions. And you think, well, it wasn't that good. It was okay. So success is a variable, really.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what kind of legacy that leaves people. If you do anything at all that resonates with people, that touches a heart or makes them want to listen to the music again because it gives you a sensation. The same way we all do as consumers. You all hear something that you want to hear again and again, and you have to play it every day. That's a success in itself.
Yeah. So, what has been your favorite song that most people don't know you've worked on then?
I think maybe for a long time, one of the ones was Fade to Grey with Visage. I produced that and co-wrote it. Uh, it's difficult. I don't really do an awful lot of collaborations with other people unless it's the
Yeah.
band that I happen to be in. So
Yeah.
I don't write songs specifically for other people. Lots of writers do. Lots of
Yeah.
writers are capable of doing that. Somebody comes to them and says, "Oh, we need a song for, Kylie Minogue," and they go, "Okay," and they sit and write a Kylie Minogue song. I can't. I can only write my
Yeah.
songs. And more often than not, it's easier if I just do them rather than try and get other people to do them.
Yeah. What's the different experience then with working in a band versus doing your own music?
Well, the old adage that the grass is always greener comes in here
Yeah.
because when you're in a band, you have to, I mean, the basis of a band is compromise.
Yeah.
There are three of you, four of you, five of you, whatever it happens to be. And you have to take everybody else's ideas and, take on everything into consideration. And a lot of the time that's great when you're all working and flowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
moment you're not, you kind of think, well, if I was doing this on my own, I wouldn't have to listen to those guys. I can do it my way.
Yeah.
But the moment you are alone, and I mean alone, I sit here and I make music. There's no engineer. I engineer it. I produce it. I play it. I do all of those things. And there are moments in here you would give your left arm to have a band member turn around and say, you know what, that's not very good. It should do this. So it's even Stevens. Being in a band is great because the camaraderie is always there.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. There's always someone ready to jump in and take your idea to the next level. Being on your own, time is your asset. Time is your friend because the only way you can judge whether what you're doing, currently working on, the only way you can judge if it's any good is to leave it, do something else for a month, then go back and listen to what you've been doing. And time will tell you instantly whether what you've done is good or bad because you'll feel it. You know.
Yeah. So I guess we can't really talk not talk about the Band-Aids, do they know it's Christmas? There was loads of artists involved in that. So how was that different?
Well, it's very different for a variety of reasons. I mean, I think the general consensus of the great wide public out there is that we all know each other. You know,
Yeah.
because they've seen us on Top of the Pops together, or they've seen us on television doing something together. They think we all hang out, and we don't. You know, we're individuals. Just like you don't know everybody that went to your school, and you don't know everyone who works in your work. It's, you know, there are faces you recognise and see. So there was an element of fear, I think, walking in, not knowing where the egos were going to be, you know, who
Yeah.
was going to be the stroppy one, who's the one that was going to be demanding.
Yeah.
And none of them were. You know, it was a real revelation. They all knew why they were there. None of them had heard a note. They didn't know what the song was. They didn't know what they were turning up to sing because you couldn't play it to them in those days. You couldn't send it to them. So they all walked in cold, you know, not knowing quite what to expect. And they all did a brilliant job. Also, an element of elation as you're going through the day. It was a 24-hour period that we saw all the artists and Phil Collins drums and mixing the record and all of that. I'd spent 4 days playing all the instruments and arranging the song in my studio on my own. So to see all these people all doing their job incredibly well, all sitting there patiently for hours on end saying, "Are you ready for me yet?" And I'm going, another hour, another 2 hours maybe. And all sat there just being, you know, perfectly behaved. It was great. It was wonderful to see.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So I guess we can talk about your upcoming studio album. So what motivated you to release a new collection after, I think it was 12 years?
Yeah, I know it's a long time, isn't it? And I'm convinced that people will listen to it and say, "Well, dude, where's the 12 years gone? It doesn't make any sense." But it does to me, you know. I think gone are the days of being tied to a record label and they demand a new album every 18 months, you know. So you don't have someone knocking on your door asking for it. There are areas of any artist has areas of self-doubt. You think, do I really need to do this? Do I want to do this? Is anyone desperate to hear this? You know, is there a point to it? But also the same artist with all those doubts will be saying, "No, I've got to get this out. I've got to get this out my system, record it, write it, get it out there, get it down." So there's areas of that. Plus we had COVID and lockdown, and we had Brexit and all of those mad things that happened during that period. Luckily, I had my own recording facilities, so I could stay sane. You know, I tour an awful lot. You know, over those 12 years, I toured a huge amount around the world. So I think maybe lockdown was the moment that I was shackled and manacled to the studio. I thought, okay, I can't go anywhere. For the first time ever, my diary was empty. Things had been cancelled. It was absolutely blank, the blank canvas. So during that period, I started working on some of the instrumental stuff because it's an album of two halves. It's an album, one side, one album is songs, the other album is instrumental music, which I've always had a love for. So it was then that I really started kind of working on it, and then realizing that instead of having two albums, I've got two very different albums, but they're actually the one record because they were created at the same time. As I said before, you work on a song, you walk away from it. I'd work on an instrumental, walk away from that, go back to the song and listen to it again and decide whether it was good enough to finish. So that just takes its own good time.
So I guess that's why you've named the tour, like a man of two worlds.
Yes, it kind of sums it up. I mean, over the years, I've written and recorded many instrumental tracks and a few film scores and stuff, and it's just a love. It's just something I have because it's a different hat. It's
Yeah.
everyone thinks, oh right, instrumental music. You've just written a song and just not bothered with the lyrics. You know, you've just written a backing track. And it's not. It's a very different task to write a piece of music that has to tell its own story without lyrics. So it has to have the highs and lows that any song has. It has to have a quasi chorus that you feel it coming and it lifts you and it takes you above and beyond the other parts of the music. And that's a bit of a skill in itself, a bit of a hard task. And I find that quite interesting to do. So yeah, A Man of Two Worlds kind of sums that up. You know, the tour is called the same thing because I am going to play not a lot of instrumentals from the new stuff because I think people need to get to know it, but some of the instrumentals that I've done over the years, alongside the hits and the songs that people will expect to hear or hope to hear.
Yeah. So I guess what do you think makes your new music different to your previous work? Is it that two different sides to it?
I think it is. I think I've never released a double album,
Yeah.
really, except for a compilation album with Ultra Vox many years ago. So the idea of releasing something that is distinctly two different things,
Yeah.
but your brother and sister to each other, as it were. They're twins, but they're very different,
Yeah.
but connected. So I think that was appealing as well, you know, because originally I thought, well, I'm going to release an instrumental album and then I'm going to release an album of songs. And I thought it wasn't until someone else pointed out that they have the same essence, the same atmosphere, the same texture as each other, but they're definitely different. But they work together. They work as a unit. That I decided to put it out as one album. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
So you said it's different with the instrumentals to the songs. Can you talk us through the process of making them and how you choose which one would be which?
Yeah, I know before I start what's going to be an instrumental. You know, when I write a song, I have the seed of the idea of what the song's going to be about lyrically. I don't write the lyrics first, very, very rarely, but I have the seed of an idea, and then I make a musical bed to put that seed in, and the whole thing just starts to grow and develop. You know, I work at it and I change things and I alter things and I write sections and put them together, piece them together like a musical jigsaw, and you end up with a song.
Yeah.
You know, and you know instinctively whether that's okay or not, that's good or not. Whereas an instrumental thing, I have a melody in my head, not lyrics. And I start with a simple melody, and that leads me on to the counter melody or the chorus melody or the build up or, you know, the kind of substructure of the whole thing. And it's different. You know, you tend to fill some of the gaps that the lyrics would take with music. So you've got other things happening, you've got textures and atmospheres all happening underneath the music. So I set out specifically to write an instrumental piece, not just, oh, that one doesn't work as a song, so I'll just put it out the way it is, because that doesn't work. That's just a backing track.
Yeah. So I guess because you're a singer, producer, and writer, you do all the different things. How do they differ, and which one is your favorite thing to do?
Oh, singing is my least favorite, certainly in the studio,
Yeah.
because it's not just, you know, getting the notes right. It's not just, you know, getting the emotions into the words. It's it's the way you deliver it, because you can deliver it so many different ways. And I I don't like the process. And I hate the process even more when I'm doing it with an engineer. I'm doing it in front of someone else. So I end up doing all the vocals on my own, you know, in the dark, little light on, and just my headphones, and just get lost in the moment. That's my least favourite because I'm never sure it's good or not. I'm never sure if it's enough. And sometimes I'll take a good take and then dump it, and I shouldn't have because maybe that was the one that had a little bit of magic to it. But whereas guitar is my main thing, I'm a guitarist more than a keyboard player. Guitar I love playing, but saying that, there's not a huge amount of guitar on the new album. I find it easier working with. I'm sitting in a little studio here, working with the computer and the sounds that the computer can create. Working with the little toys and elements that I have here, and that's quite engrossing. It's almost like playing. It's almost like a kid playing with Lego or, you know, Duplo, or, you know, building something with little blocks. That's fun. And then I'll get the guitar out and sit and do it. I very rarely write things on a guitar, but guitar's my first instrument, which is crazy, isn't it?
I guess how long does the process take how long did this album take making altogether?
Well, it's different. I mean, my previous solo album took 7 years, which is for the same reasons. Not lockdown and stuff like that, but for the same reasons. I've been unsure whether I wanted to do it or whether anyone wanted me to do it or whatever. And that whole process of trying not to step in the same footsteps you did before. So you write something new and you go, oh, I'm happy with that. And then in the middle of the night, a week later, you wake up and go, oh my God, because I like it because it's the same as something I did 20 years ago. It's the same theme or the same melody or a similar melody. And you've got to try and not, replicate what you've done in the past. And that takes a while. It takes a huge amount of time because I care. I don't want to replicate. There's no point in making something new if it's all stemmed in the past. So that in itself takes its time. Other songs I've created songs that I've done in 24 hours. From the idea to the conception of the recording. To the finalization of it in a day or two. But that's a rarity. I think as you get older, you get more pedantic. I think that maybe that's what you get more fussy. And if anyone's going to be fussy with what I'm doing, it should be me.
Yeah. I guess how has your relationship with music changed over your career? Because the industry's changed quite a bit.
Oh, industry's changed a massive amount, and maybe sometimes not for the best. And no, that's an old man thing to say, but it's kind of true. Back in the day, it was more difficult, I think, to be discovered back in the day when you had dedicated the labels had dedicated A&R men, artists and repertoire, whose job it was to go out and stand in sticky carpeted clubs and see a new band, a new artist or whatever, and then all fight each other to try and sign them. That's how it used to work. But since file sharing, since Napster came up with the idea of being able to send files to each other and steal music, it's all changed. So the record companies don't have the wherewithal to do what they used to do, which is maybe sign 100 artists in a year and then give them all a budget and then put all the stuff out. And then the ones that did really well, they would pay for all the ones that didn't, and they'd get rid of all the ones that didn't and then sign another 100. Well, they haven't got that kind of money anymore. They don't have that wealth. So they tend to sign, this is a massive generalization, by the way, they tend to sign the same type of artists. So, they'll sign what they think is the next Harry Styles, or what they think is the next Beyonce, or what they think is the next whoever, and that's not particularly adventurous. Music's life and longevity depends on change, depends on a little bit of radical thinking, a little bit of outside the box, and it's a bit safe at times. So it's changed a lot. So it's very difficult, I think, now with the new way of recording, because most people can record at home. You don't need the big advance that the record companies used to have to give you in order to get into a studio to record, because that's what they do. They advance you money you haven't earned, and then you spend it making a record, and then you hope the record's going to sell so you can pay the money back. That's how it works. But now, for the £1,000 or whatever, people can buy a computer and some software and record in their bedroom. But then they have to put their music out, which means they stick it online, and that's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's really difficult. So social media seems to run success these days. So now, instead of finding the best band, best drummer, best guitarist, best keyboard player, best singer, best bass player that you can find, you now need to find a drummer who's brilliant at social media, and a bass player who's really good at engineering, and somebody else who's really good at graphics, because you have to be able to do it yourself.
Yeah. I guess like, what do you do in outside of music in your free time? Like, how does that create the image that you want to create?
Oh, I've been quite open about it. There's not a lot that I do. I mean, music was my hobby, and that's become my livelihood. That's overtaken my life. So, the only things I do outside of this, I've given up riding motorbikes and collecting classic cars. I used to cook a lot. In order to switch off, I would stop making music and I'd spend a day, making a feast for a bunch of friends, and that would keep me occupied for, the whole. Just trying to do 6 or 7 different dishes at once, and that would keep me interested, and that was a form of relaxation for me. But other than that, no, it's still, it's still 90% music.
Yeah. I guess, is there anything else you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered in the interview?
I don't think we have. No, not really. No, there's nothing that springs to
Mhm.
mind.
Mhm.
No,
Well, thank you so much then. It was really nice meeting you.
thank you.
Um, for our listeners, definitely check out Midge's new album, A Man of Two Worlds, dropping on the 8th of May. And make sure to book onto his tour starting the same day in Bath and then ending in Guildford in November. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.